Right, so how do we use study leave properly? Sounds easy, right? Say the question to ask. Just revise during it for a couple hours every single day and you'll be fine. But we all know it isn't that simple. Like on the first day, you go down to revise, but you're tired, you're bored, you're demotivated, you simply don't know what to do. And then you end up reviewing content that you already know. It feels productive, but deep down you know it's not. I know what this feels like. I've experienced it last year with my GCSEs. But I think I've overcome every single possible problem available. And that's what led me to get 12 nines in my GCSEs in the end. So thankfully for you, here's a full practical guide about how to use study leave properly. And it's not some of this random productivity nonsense you see online. I'm giving you what actually works and what's actually worked for me in the past. So we'll start off quickly with an action step I want you to take. This is exactly what I did when I first started, something I thought would be cool, but it really did work. I want you to write down every single subject that you will be taking an exam on within the next couple of weeks. And next to them, I want you to write down the grade that you expect that you will see on your results card in August once you finish your exam. But also, leave a little bit of space on the sides. Bump every single grade that you've written down by 1 or 2 grades. So if you write it down, you'll get a 5 in maths. Why don't you put a 6 or 7 down? This psychology is something I've been using for a while. It's called the theory of constraints or theory of limits. If you limit yourself to getting a certain grade, or you write down you will only get a 5 in maths, then you'll pretty much never achieve anything higher. Once you set yourself at that boundary, let's say the 5 in maths, there's no chance that you'll get any higher solely because you believe that you're only going to put enough effort in to get the 5. But if you say you're going to get a 6 or 7, something that almost exceeds your expectations of yourself, then you'll put in a little bit more effort because you know it's attainable. It's just a number on your results card that you can possibly achieve. And this is the thing that you really have to understand before I give you any of the tactics that I'll discuss in this video, because I know it's difficult. But once I set myself in the mindset that 12 nines is achievable, or that I can do it and not get anything lower, then it became achievable and I did it. Once you understand this, it'll become so much easier to apply the tactics that I'll show you in a moment. You think you'll become more capable. You have the propensity to do harder things. So the first tactic is simply having a routine for every single day. So my GCSEs were the first time I ever used a revision timetable to revise from. And the thing is, I've kept using revision timetables ever since because it really worked for me. The reason why it worked is because of the idea of being regimented, like in the army, doing the same things every single day on repeat, and it becomes so much easier to do the work, get it done quickly, and then have a rest afterwards. If you're interested in seeing what my GCSE timetable actually looked like, then I'll put it in my Discord community in the description down below. The problem that I see with most people is that they simply don't know or just alter the way they revise every single day. So there's no structure or set routine, which makes your life a lot more difficult because you're constantly having to think about what you're going to do at different times. You only need to put in 3 to 5 hours every single day to revise for your exams because they're quite important, right? So if you put 3 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the evening, then you have the whole middle of the day to rest, do what you want, whatever you want to do. And guess what? You'll be even more motivated to do probably a bit of above and beyond work, doing more so that you can bolster your chance of getting the grade. As soon as you see where you have free time during the day, I felt sometimes I was so motivated I could put in another 2 hours in the afternoon. That's only because I knew when I had free time and I knew when I was willing to give up my free time to do extra work. And without the timetable, I simply wouldn't have been able to do it. The main limiting belief that you could have from this is that it's simply too much work to put in every day. The main way I overcome this was just seeing how easy it is to fit in work every single day into my timetable. I was doing 3 hours in the morning when I woke up. By that time, I only need to do 2 more hours. But often I felt I had more in the tank. I could do another 2, maybe 4. That's what helped me get to 9 in many of my subjects, but I was previously unsure about whether I'll get them. And I felt like particularly for something like history and computer science. But you'll soon realise essentially that it's not really a lot of work and you'll be heavily motivated because you're driven to do well. But also that you've got a lot of free time so you can fit in a little bit more but not overdo it in order to increase the chance of getting that grade. So how do we make this routine? On a really basic level, pick 3 times in the day where you're willing to put in an hour or 2 of work. When I first started, I thought, you know what, 9 a.m. is a good time, 2 p.m. is a good time, and 7 p.m. was a good time. And I'll do 2 hours at 9 a.m., 1 hour at 2 p.m., and 2 hours at 7 p.m. And guess what? That was 5 hours of work done for the day, and I didn't need to do any more. But now, as I've gotten older and experienced more things to do my productivity, I would encourage you heavily to do work as soon as you wake up. For example, most days I wake up at 5:30 to 6 a.m. And most days I work for 2 hours at 6 a.m. because my body is fasted from food and has got the most energy possible at that time because I've just woken up. I posted a video recently about intensity, and that was the biggest tactic I mentioned on there. But the next thing I would like to talk about is simply spreading the workload thinly but tightly. And I'll explain what that means in a second. As I said before, you're going to be working 3 to 5 hours every single day for the duration of 2 weeks before your exam. But the thing is, do you want to study one subject only for 5 hours, or do you want to study 2 subjects for about 2.5 hours each on that day? So I would recommend to spread your subjects thinly, to do 2 or 3 subjects every single day in that 3 to 5 hour period. The problem that you get when you only do one is that you simply just get bored. I began doing this with physics. I simply couldn't focus for much longer than an hour or two doing something like waves or electricity. I didn't really enjoy it, and I didn't find it fun enough to have high focus on. But as soon as I started doing physics and chemistry and English on one day, that's when I was the most motivated, because I was almost task switching effectively. I know people say task switching is bad, but the reason why we do it is simply because it's fun. It's fun to do different things. It's fun to have a little bit of novelty in your life. So that's why I would recommend to spread one subject across many days rather than just do one subject on one particular day for full focus 5 hours. It makes you happier, more motivated, but it also ensures that you'll get a lot of the work done in the end for every single subject. When I first mentioned the tactic, I said spread it thinly, but also spread it tightly. Tightly means that you only focus on the hardest content, or the content that you find hardest in that subject. So essentially just focus and review on the content which is absolutely necessary to push you into the higher grade boundaries. So let's pick a subject of yours right now. Let's say you're going to pick maths. And in maths, you find circle theorems and areas and trigonometry particularly difficult. So why would you bother revising quadratic graphs or cubic graphs when you already struggle with area and trigonometry and circle theorems? It does make sense, right? So what you have to do is to focus on the topics that you find hardest. If a question on those topics comes up in your exam, but you've only been revising the cubic graphs or the quadratic graphs that you find really easy, but you won't be able to answer it. I know it sounds a bit like common sense, but I know a lot of people who just find comfort in doing things that they already know, because it just feels nice to get things right once in a while. But what you have to understand is that intelligence is just based on how many things you learn from. You won't become more intelligent by repeating things you know. You'll become more intelligent by repeating things that you don't know, and things you'll eventually know once you repeat them in the future. And during your 3 to 5 hours every single day, these are the things that you should be focusing on. So if you really, really want to go above and beyond, and this is what I did, just pick 3 or 4 things per subject that you struggle on and focus on them in your 3 to 5 hours every single day. And so now I've got a little bit of a story to tell you in Tactic 3, which is iterate and improve relentlessly. So I'm a little bit of a fraud. I didn't do 12 subjects last year, I only did 11. Because I did one subject in year 10, which was RS, or Religious Studies. That subject, I struggled so much with getting all the quotes, all the subject specific knowledge into my head. And when I came to exams, I didn't really know how to apply it, or how to apply it well. I could apply it, but it just wasn't clicking, it wasn't great. Because I was continually forgetting the information, or not remembering the information precisely enough. But the main way I solved this was iteration. Iteration is a stronger word than repeat. Repeat just means do it over and over again. But iteration is more mechanical, more like a machine. You'll repeat every single flashcard 3 or 4 times before it's just fluent in your head. That's what I did for RS. If I didn't remember the quote, what would I do? Recite the information so many times that it almost feels stupid if I forget it. That's what I did for the quotes and essay plans, and you can do this for almost any subject. But the thing is, you've got to be clever with this. You can't just be continually iterating over and over and over, because you'll eventually come to a point where, you know this stuff. So when do you stop? You simply stop when you feel like, I know this already, I could recite this, I could put this down in my exam paper and get full marks on it. So I know that a lot of us struggle with perfectionism. How many times do we iterate it until we know it perfectly? So I'll give you a number, iterate it 4 times. That's on average what I did for every single topic and subject for my GCSEs. And that got me the grade, so it is probably enough. So the final thing I'd like to talk about is just having a little bit of time away from all of this studying. My biggest mistake was studying for 6 to 8 hours every single day. This is why I've told you that 3 to 5 is enough. Because when I was doing 6 to 8 hours, I didn't really need to do them. Solely because the extra 3 or 4 hours were just a bit of clutter. Doing it for the sake of doing it, but it didn't really add to my final grade. It didn't really confirm the grade anymore or bolster my chance anymore. At that point, I just felt so demotivated and almost burnt out. Thankfully, I wasn't fully burnt out. And that's when my mum almost forced me to go to the gym because I'd been skipping, just do these stupid hours every single day, which I, in hindsight, probably shouldn't have done. So a couple of activities that you can do: exercise, read, go out with your friends and speak to your parents. Simple. Just don't fill your time with studying because it simply isn't worth it. So yeah, if you did find this video helpful, I've got a student community in the description down below, but I'll see you in the next video.